In a world addicted to noise, silence is seen as weakness. Yet Friedrich Nietzsche believed otherwise. To him, true strength wasn't found in loud declarations or endless debates. It was hidden in the quiet power of restraint. Silence is not the absence of thought, but the mastery of it. It's a sign that you no longer need to prove yourself to anyone. Those who can remain silent when others seek validation have already won a battle most people never even realize they're fighting. Nietzsche taught that silence is a sword, not a shield, a weapon wielded by those who have conquered their inner chaos. It's in silence that the mind sharpens, the spirit hardens, and the soul stands unshaken. Today, we unravel why choosing silence isn't an act of surrender. It's the ultimate show of strength in a world that misunderstands it. Silence is a weapon, not weakness. Silence is often mistaken for surrender. In a culture obsessed with visibility, with instant reactions and constant engagement, staying silent is viewed as passivity, as if you have nothing to say or nothing to fight for. But true silence, the conscious, deliberate kind, is not born from fear or confusion. It is born from strength, from a mind that has outgrown the need to be constantly seen, heard, and validated. Silence is not weakness. It is a calculated weapon used by those who understand that real power often moves unseen. When you choose silence, you refuse to be baited. You refuse to react impulsively. Most people are slaves to their emotions, blurting out whatever they feel in the moment, exposing their hand before the game has even begun. But silence guards your intentions. It conceals your strategy. It creates an air of mystery that unsettles those who expect an immediate response. In silence, you maintain control over not only your own mind, but the perceptions of everyone around you. They cannot predict you. They cannot manipulate you. They can only wonder what your silence means, and that uncertainty often weighs heavier than any words could. Nietzsche understood this deeply. To him, the loudest man in the room was often the weakest. Noise is frequently a defense mechanism, a way of masking insecurity, of creating distraction. But the one who can sit in silence, who can endure the pressure to speak and still say nothing, reveals a different kind of strength. It is the strength of inner certainty. When you are at peace with yourself, you no longer need the constant feedback loop of approval and reaction from others. You speak when you choose, not when you are provoked. Silence also weaponizes patience. In a world rushing toward the next argument, the next trend, the next dopamine hit, the silent individual stands apart, simply by refusing to rush. Patience unnerves those who live for immediate gratification. It forces them to confront their own impatience, their own anxiety. In confrontation, the person who can wait out the noise gains a psychological edge. They don't need to win every battle because they are already winning the larger war, the war of self-mastery. Moreover, silence carries a different kind of gravity. When you do finally speak after long silence, people listen. Your words are no longer diluted by noise. They land with impact because they are rare, deliberate, and necessary. You create tension by your absence, and then break it with precision. When you decide it is time, that is power. That is influence. Not because you fought harder than others, but because you fought smarter. Silence also builds an impenetrable boundary. It protects your inner world from being invaded by the chaos of others. While everyone else is caught in a frenzy of gossip, judgment, and emotional reactivity, you remain untouched. You are the calm eye in the middle of the storm, and in that calmness, you grow stronger, more focused, more dangerous to those who thrive on distraction. People fear what they cannot read. When you speak constantly, you become predictable. Your fears, your weaknesses, your desires are all on display. But when you remain silent, you become an enigma. Others project their own fears and fantasies onto you because they have nothing solid to grasp. You hold the advantage not because you have fewer thoughts, but because you have mastered the discipline to keep them guarded. Silence is not submission. It is not cowardice. It is strategy. It is composure under pressure. It is the refusal to be dragged into battles that are beneath you. It is the preservation of your energy, your focus, and your dignity in a world that demands you waste them for nothing. Restraint as true strength. Restraint is one of the most misunderstood forms of strength. Society often glamorizes instant reaction, quick retaliation, and loud dominance, portraying them as marks of power. But true strength lies not in how fast or how loudly you respond. It lies in your ability to hold back, to stay calm when every part of you is tempted to explode. Restraint is the art of knowing you could act, you could dominate, you could destroy, but you choose not to. It's not a lack of power, it's the conscious control of it. To show restraint means to master the primal parts of your nature. Anger, pride, fear, all of them beg for immediate release when you feel threatened, insulted, or challenged. It's easy to lash out when you're provoked. It's easy to react when you feel disrespected. It's easy to be impulsive, but what's easy is rarely what's powerful. Restraint demands discipline. It demands that you delay gratification, that you tolerate discomfort, that you think before you act. That level of self-control turns emotional chaos into strategic action. The strongest people are not those who overpower everyone around them at every opportunity. They are the ones who pick their battles with care. They know that reacting to every insult, every slight, every attack is a waste of energy. They understand that not every situation deserves their attention. Not every fight is worth their effort. By exercising restraint, they conserve their strength for the moments that truly matter. They don't bleed energy trying to prove their worth to people who are beneath their mission. They remain focused, composed, and deliberate. Restraint also builds an aura of unpredictability. When people cannot predict your reactions, they cannot control you. Most individuals are slaves to their emotions. They are easily baited, easily provoked. Their enemies know exactly which buttons to push to make them act recklessly. But the restrained individual is different. They do not give away their emotional triggers so easily. They do not allow their enemies to dictate the pace of the game. Instead, they maintain a strategic distance, forcing others to act emotionally, while they stay calm and calculating. There is a different kind of dominance that comes from restraint. A psychological dominance. When someone throws their worst at you and you remain unaffected, it shatters their confidence. They realize their power over you is an illusion. Your lack of reaction becomes a mirror reflecting their weakness. In contrast, your restraint becomes evidence of your inner fortress, your unshakable ground. You have nothing to prove because you already know who you are. Restraint also protects your reputation. In moments of high emotion, one careless move can undo years of work, trust, and authority. Those who act impulsively often leave behind wreckage, burned bridges, broken relationships, shattered credibility. But those who can stay silent, patient, and composed in moments of chaos emerge with their dignity intact. They gain respect not just because they are strong, but because they are wise enough to know when strength must be hidden rather than displayed. Restraint transforms raw power into refined power. It is not just strength, it is strength under control, guided by intelligence, directed by purpose. It is a quiet, invisible power that often achieves more than brute force ever could. Those who master restraint do not just survive conflict, they shape it. They bend situations to their will by refusing to play the emotional games that trap others. In a world that worships noise and reaction, restraint is the rarest and purest form of strength. Silence creates inner sovereignty. Silence is not just an absence of sound, it is an active claiming of territory within yourself. When you choose silence, you are not merely withholding words, you are reclaiming authority over your mind, your emotions, and your energy. Inner sovereignty means that no external force can dictate your state of being. It is the ability to rule over yourself without needing constant validation, approval, or reaction from the outside world. Silence is the tool that sharpens this sovereignty, carving out a space where your power belongs only to you. Most people live in a constant state of reaction. They are pulled in 1,000 directions by the noise of society, the opinions of others, and the endless stream of information flooding their senses. In this environment, silence becomes an act of rebellion. It is a refusal to be dragged into the mental chaos that consumes the majority. It is a declaration that you will not be ruled by external distractions, that you will listen first and speak only when it serves a real purpose. This ability to choose when and how you engage with the world is the foundation of true inner freedom. Silence creates a buffer between you and the external world. It gives you the space to observe rather than immediately participate. You begin to notice patterns in behavior, weaknesses in arguments, emotional undercurrents that others miss because they are too busy speaking. In silence, you become a strategist rather than a soldier. You see the battlefield clearly because you are not caught up in the noise of it. This clarity strengthens your autonomy, allowing you to move with precision rather than being swept along by the chaos. In practicing silence, you also begin to master your own emotions. Words often come from the most reactive parts of ourselves: fear, anger, pride. When you stay silent, you force yourself to sit with those emotions, to feel them fully without acting on them impulsively. This builds emotional resilience. You learn that you can experience discomfort without needing to release it immediately through speech or action. This ability to hold space for your emotions without being controlled by them is a crucial pillar of inner sovereignty. It means you are no longer at the mercy of every passing feeling. Moreover, silence deepens your relationship with your own thoughts. When you are not constantly engaged in external conversation, you create the conditions necessary for introspection. You begin to hear the deeper layers of your own mind, the questions, the doubts, the insights that are usually drowned out by noise. This self-awareness allows you to navigate life from a place of authenticity rather than imitation. You stop mimicking the ideas and behaviors of others because you are too intimately acquainted with your own truth. And from that truth you build an identity that cannot be easily shaken. Silence also teaches you the value of your own voice. When you do speak after long periods of observation and reflection, your words carry the weight of thoughtfulness and intent. You are not speaking to fill space or to satisfy your ego. You are speaking because you have something meaningful to say. This makes your voice more powerful, more respected. People sense that you are not easily swayed, not desperate for approval, and they respond with a different kind of attention. Your sovereignty is no longer just internal. It is recognized externally as well. In a world that demands constant noise, choosing silence is a form of self-possession. It is the conscious decision to anchor yourself inwardly rather than float aimlessly through external chaos. It cultivates patience, sharpens perception, and strengthens emotional discipline. Above all, it declares that your mind, your energy, and your identity belong to you alone. Silence is not emptiness. It is the ground upon which true sovereignty is built. Speaking less, meaning more. In a world oversaturated with words, the ones who speak less naturally command more attention. Every day, conversations, media, and online platforms overflow with endless chatter, arguments, and noise. People speak to be heard, but rarely to be understood. They talk to fill silence, to prove a point, to feel significant. Yet amidst this verbal chaos, the individual who chooses words carefully, who speaks only when necessary, becomes a rare force. Speaking less is not about shyness or fear. It is about intention, precision, and power. It means that when you do choose to speak, your words are so deliberate that they leave an imprint that careless words never could. When you speak less, you are forced to think more. Without the constant pressure to fill space, your mind begins to sharpen. You start choosing words that carry weight, that reveal insight, that leave no doubt about your presence or understanding. This cultivates a kind of linguistic minimalism where every word earns its place. People are conditioned to ignore what is abundant. When words are thrown carelessly, they lose their impact. But when speech becomes rare and thoughtful, it demands attention. It makes others pause and lean in because they instinctively know that what is said holds meaning. Those who speak less also develop a deeper awareness of timing. They don't interrupt conversations just to be noticed. They don't feel the need to dominate discussions to validate their opinions. Instead, they observe, they listen, and they wait. They recognize the precise moment when a few well-chosen words can shift the entire dynamic of a room. Speaking less teaches you that sometimes silence itself speaks volumes, and when broken, it should only be done with the precision of a scalpel, not the recklessness of a hammer. This discipline also protects your credibility. Frequent talkers often contradict themselves, weaken their positions, and expose their insecurities. They reveal too much, too easily. In contrast, those who speak less are seen as more consistent, more composed, and more trustworthy. Their opinions seem stronger simply because they are not constantly adjusting them to fit every passing conversation. Speaking less shields your reputation because it minimizes the chances of saying something you will later regret, or that can be used against you. In negotiation, in leadership, in personal relationships, this restraint becomes an undeniable asset. Moreover, speaking less heightens the emotional power of your communication. People remember how you made them feel, not just what you said. When your words are few but sincere, they strike deeper. Compliments feel more genuine. Criticisms carry more weight. Encouragement feels more profound. The economy of your speech forces people to focus, not only on the words but on the meaning behind them. In a society flooded with empty praise and hollow criticisms, meaningful words become unforgettable. Speaking less also allows you to maintain a certain mystery about yourself. Mystery is an underrated form of influence. When people cannot predict you, when they are unsure of your full thoughts or intentions, they become more cautious, more respectful. They wonder what you are thinking rather than dismissing you as predictable. You become the unknown variable in every social equation, and the unknown always carries a certain power. It causes others to second-guess themselves and to treat your words, when they finally arrive, with more seriousness. Choosing to speak less ultimately refines not just your communication but your very character. It teaches patience, self-awareness, and control. It elevates your presence without ever requiring you to demand attention. You are not louder than others. You are simply more profound. In a society addicted to noise, your quiet, deliberate voice becomes a rarity. And because it is rare, it becomes valuable. Speaking less is not about saying nothing. It is about saying only what matters, and letting the silence in between do most of the talking. The world fears what it cannot read. Humans are creatures of pattern recognition. From an evolutionary standpoint, the ability to quickly read situations, emotions, and intentions meant the difference between survival and destruction. We feel safe when we can predict someone's behavior, when we can place them neatly into categories, when we can anticipate their next move. Predictability provides comfort because it removes uncertainty. But when someone cannot be easily read, when their emotions, intentions, and thoughts are hidden beneath a composed exterior, it triggers a deep, primal discomfort. The unknown is unsettling, and fear grows where understanding ends. When you cultivate an unreadable presence, you disturb the assumptions people unconsciously depend upon. Most individuals are transparent without even realizing it. Their body language, their facial expressions, their impulsive words reveal everything. Their fears, their ambitions, their insecurities. They are easy to manipulate, easy to provoke, easy to control. But when you develop emotional discipline, when you refuse to wear your heart on your sleeve, you become unpredictable. People cannot tell what you are thinking, what you want, or how you might react. In that uncertainty, you gain a quiet but profound form of power. An unreadable person forces others into a constant state of guesswork. They overanalyze your silences, your glances, your smallest actions, looking for clues that aren't there. This overthinking exhausts them. It causes them to project their own fears and insecurities onto you. They imagine threats that may not even exist, simply because they cannot predict you. Their fear is not always rational. It is instinctive. The human mind is uncomfortable with blanks. It cannot fill puzzles it cannot solve, and in this discomfort, you gain leverage. The fear of the unreadable also comes from the realization that one cannot control what one cannot understand. Control often begins with knowledge. If someone knows your emotional triggers, your desires, your fears, they can shape your behavior without you even realizing it. But when you refuse to reveal those internal maps, you deny them the ability to steer you. Your silence, your restraint, your composed energy act as armor against manipulation. You move through the world on your terms, not according to the emotional scripts others try to write for you. Being unreadable is not about being cold or detached. It is about maintaining sovereignty over your internal world. It is choosing when and how much of yourself to reveal. It is understanding that not everyone deserves access to your mind or your emotions. In protecting your inner world, you force others to interact with you on the surface level, where you control what is seen and what remains hidden. They see what you allow them to see, nothing more. This unreadability also shifts social dynamics. People often respect or fear what they do not understand. In situations where others might dismiss someone who is overly expressive or emotionally reactive, they tread more carefully around someone who remains composed and mysterious. Your unreadability demands a different kind of attention. It forces people to measure their words, to second-guess their intentions, to wonder if you are friend, enemy, or something else entirely. This hesitation often gives you time to navigate situations with greater control and subtle influence. There is also a psychological magnetism that comes with being unreadable. People are drawn to mysteries. What they cannot easily define, they become obsessed with trying to figure out. In being less accessible, you paradoxically become more intriguing. You command curiosity without begging for it. You draw attention without chasing it. Those who cannot immediately decode you are forced to keep returning, to keep engaging, in hopes of eventually uncovering your truths. This silent pull gives you an edge that loudness and transparency could never achieve. The world fears what it cannot read, because what cannot be read cannot be tamed, cannot be predicted, cannot be controlled. In mastering the art of being unreadable, you master the art of maintaining your freedom in a world that seeks constantly to confine, define, and dominate. You move like a shadow, immune to the snares laid out by those who seek easy prey, and in doing so, you become something both feared and respected. In a world that worships noise, transparency, and endless exposure, the art of silence becomes a radical form of strength. Nietzsche's understanding of silence was not about weakness or fear. It was about the cultivation of inner sovereignty, the mastering of restraint, and the deliberate sharpening of one's presence. Speaking less, meaning more, and guarding your inner world with unwavering discipline transforms you into something rare and powerful, something the world cannot easily read or control. True strength is not found in the loudest voice or the fastest reaction. It is found in the one who can stand still, composed and unwavering amidst the chaos. Silence refines the mind, fortifies the spirit, and builds a fortress around your deepest truths. As you walk through life, remember, the less you reveal, the more you protect. The more you restrain, the more you command. In mastering silence, you do not disappear, you rise above. And that is where true power begins.